Hello friends, in this video I am going to describe textures of igneous rocks. There are various kind of textures of igneous rocks and we are going to describe them all here one by one. So first of all, what is the meaning of texture? What is texture? What is its definition? Texture means shape, size and arrangement of mineral grains in a rock. Means what is the shape and size of the mineral grains and what is its arrangement in the rock, that is called texture. So the first categorization includes holocrystalline, holohaline, and merocrystalline. What is the holocrystalline? When rock is entirely made up of crystal, so that texture is called holocrystalline texture. When the rock is entirely made up of glassy material, that is called holohaline texture. And when the rock is partly made up of crystal and partly made up of glassy material, that is called merocrystalline or hemicrystalline. Okay, the second categorization includes, and it is based on the size of mineral grain, coarse grain. When the mineral size of mineral grain is greater than 5 millimeter in diameter, that is called coarse grained texture, and it is found in intrusive rocks, intrusive that are found below Earth's crust because magma crystallized there. Then they are called intrusive. Medium grained, the size lie between 1 to 5 millimeter in diameter of grain, and fine grained is when grain size is less than 1 millimeter in diameter, that is called fine grained texture, and it is extrusive in nature, means it is found in extrusive rocks. What is microcrystalline? If mineral grains can be distinguished under a microscope, means if we can see mineral grains clearly under a microscope, they are called microcrystalline texture. And cryptocrystalline, if mineral grains cannot be distinguished under a microscope, means they cannot be seen under a microscope properly, but their presence is marked as they react to polarized light. But when we throw polarized light on them, they show some reaction. So such kind of texture is called cryptocrystalline texture. Okay, the third categorization is euhedral, subhedral, and hedral. If grains show well-developed faces, the texture is called euhedral texture. If grains show partly developed faces, then the texture is subhedral. And if the grains do not show faces and the faces are absent, then the texture is called anhedral texture. The fourth categorization is equigranular. Equigranular texture. When minerals grains are of equal size, the texture is said to be equigranular texture. This includes panidiomorphic, that means when most crystals are euhedral, the texture is called panidiomorphic. Hypidiomorphic, when most crystals are subhedral, the texture is called hypidiomorphic. Elytriomorphic, when most crystals are anhedral and these all have equal sizes, then they are called panidiomorphic, hypidiomorphic, and elytriomorphic respectively. Now the microgranular. Microgranular crystals can also have an equigranular texture. Some microcrystalline crystals, they also have equigranular texture, means their grain size is also equal. The crystal of these fine-grained rock are anhedral, and if the crystal is anhedral or subhedral, then the texture is called MT, that is microgranular texture. Felsitic texture. Igneous rock containing a uniform mass of cryptocrystalline matter have felsitic T, that means texture. If igneous rock is containing uniform mass and that too of crystalline matter, so that is said to have felsitic texture. Now the fifth categorization is inequigranular. If igneous rocks containing grains of different size, means then the texture is said to be called as inequigranular texture. If the grain size of the grains of igneous rocks are unequal, then the texture is inequigranular. In this porphyritic, when igneous rock contain large crystal of some mineral set in fine grained or glassy matrix, so the texture is called porphyritic texture. Means suppose igneous rock contain large crystals. This is igneous rock and this is containing large crystal, and these are set or embedded in a matrix, and that matrix is can be fine grains or glassy material, so the texture is called porphyritic texture. And these large material are called phenocryst, and the matrix is called ground mass. What is polycrytic texture? When in a rock smaller crystal are enclosed within large crystal without common orientation, then the texture is called polycrytic texture. Suppose this is a rock and these are large crystal, and inside them we can say smaller crystals that are enclosed by these large crystals. Then the texture is called polylytic texture. What is ophitic texture? A special polylytic texture in which large oxide crystal enclose smaller plagioclase fragments. Suppose this is a rock, and in this the large crystal are of augite, and they are enclosing, and the small crystals are of plagioclase, and they are plagioclase fragments. So the texture will be called as ophitic texture. So next one is intergranular texture. When network of plagioclase layers or plagioclase fragments forms triangular or polygonal, means structure having 5 faces interface. Then what happens when these interspaces are filled by augite, ferric oxide, that is iron oxide, and other minute grains? Then the texture is called as intergranular texture. The last categorization is directive texture. What is a directive texture? The texture produced as a result of flow of lava during consolidation. Suppose the mass is consolidating, and some lines or some flow marks are left at them on them by the flowing magma. Then this texture is called directive texture. Inside this, trachytic texture is the first one. Certain volcanic rocks contain feldspar laths arranged in line parallel to flow of lava. Suppose the lava is flowing in this direction, and the feldspar laths contain volcanic rocks contain feldspar laths arranged in line parallel to the feldspar laths are arranged parallel to the flow of lava. Then such a texture is called TT, that is trachytic texture. Hyalophylitic texture. What is hyalophylitic texture? If feldspar laths are mixed with glass, then the texture is called hyalophylitic texture. And intergrowth. When two minerals grow together simultaneously, one over another, the texture is called intergrowth or graphic texture.